Welcome back to The Garden Guys. I listened to The Proper Care and Feeding of a Husband by Laura, I'm going to butcher this, especially with my lisp, Laura Schlessinger. That's a hard one for me. I am sure somebody will pop up the book somewhere around here. Hopefully, please pop up a book somewhere around here. I listened to the book. This is the first audiobook on Audible I have come to completion with. I am super stoked about it. I am somebody who has a very hard time retaining things audibly. I have to read it. I have to read it to retain it. Took me about 8 hours to finish a 2-hour book. But we persevered. I got past my frustration, and it was a really good book. She is a very brazen, older woman. Some of the things she said, I was like, whew, get it, Laura. I have some direct quotes, so you'll see. These notes, I have put zero thought into these notes. I was listening to the audiobook. I would say, hey Siri, make a note, and I would blurb out whatever I'd blurb out, and then it was sitting in my notes. And then a week ago or so, I transferred those notes into my Kindle, and like I said, zero thought. We are going to experience this together today. All right. So the book starts out with a story about a woman who is Christian and her husband who is Jewish. Laura points out that neither of them are seriously practicing because if they were, they would have married within their faith. And then I wrote down sidebar, if you truly practice love, grace, and compassion, you would understand you hate the sin, not the sinner. I don't know how I came to that. I side railed. But elaborating on that part right there, if you truly practice love, grace, and compassion, you understand you hate the sin and not the sinner. It is very hard to remove emotions from a situation, especially if you're the one who was on the ass end of being burned. Especially if it's by somebody who is like a repeat offender in your life. They constantly do something. They are known for doing this. You get a phone call from them and you're like, your stomach sinks and you're like, oh God, what is it? What is it this time? Please don't let it involve me. Please don't let it affect my life. Removing your emotion and being able to recognize that mental illness is a thing, addiction is a thing, and people can become addicted to a plethora of things, not just substances. You can be frustrated with somebody. You can have, I don't know if animosity is the word, but that's the one. You can have animosity towards them because of their wrongdoings. And it hurts even more when they know that they are wrong, but they just genuinely do not care. That's the worst of the worst. To remove your emotions from that and look at that person objectively and recognize that maybe place their wrongdoings with a demon on their back, right? That demon has full control over that person. It's like a parasitic insect that take over, like ants, for example, or a fungi. There's a fungi that takes over insects and literally manipulates its body. It keeps its host alive just so it can reap the benefits, but it's a zombie at that point. And that's really sad to think about. That somebody is so controlled by the demons in their life that they really don't get to experience what freedom is, because freedom is peace. Oh, peace is the greatest thing. Sitting outside, listening to the kids laugh, holding my husband's hand in Tennessee, listening to the wind in the tree, and there's a fire crackling. That's peace. And you can't have that if there is constant emotional turmoil inside of you. And it's a lot. Moving on, because I'm going to keep going. On to Laura's point, where she said if they were seriously practicing, they would have married within their faith. That's true. If it was really such a big deal, they would have been flexible. They would not have been so flexible on things. Before they got married, the woman promised to raise their children Jewish. But when Christmas rolled around, she put up a tree and wanted to make Easter plans. When her husband told her Jewish people don't do that, she had a conniption fit. She wanted the children to experience what she had in her childhood, and now she wanted to find a way to make her husband stop being upset about her broken vow. Let that sink in for a minute, right? The mom has good intentions. She wants to have her children experience the magic of Christmas and Santa and the Easter Bunny and all of the things that come with Christianity. She made a promise to her husband, though. And assuming that he took it seriously because he said something, he's like, hey, we don't do that. You promised that we would raise our children as Jewish. Assuming he had a problem with it, why didn't you marry somebody within your faith, right? And this is just pointing out where we're tracing back things, right? We always want to find the root of the problem. They both decided not to marry within their faith. She was flexible. She was like, we can raise them Jewish. If they are being raised in Jewish, if in every other aspect, I am not familiar with Jewish practices. Judaism, I believe it is called. Oh, wow. I am recognizing I really need to expand myself right now. I'm going to let the wave of disappointment wash over me. Yep. And now I have something I can work on, and that is expanding myself into what other faiths are, what they stand for, and just overall gain some worldly information. All right, let's move on from that moment. So if the children are being raised in every other aspect that comes along with the religion of being Jewish, I think that he could yield a little bit to put up a Christmas tree and have Easter baskets and do Santa Claus, because neither of you are really that serious about it. Just my perspective, tracing back the lines of things. Her breaking her vow, now that is a problem. That was a short-term promise. There was not... So many things are popping into my mind. Horizontal view, longevity, but that doesn't work there. There is not any future foresight. Let's say that. There's no future foresight into her promise. If she would have really sat down and thought about it, I would imagine at some point they would have discussed what their faiths are. You know, what do you do for Christmas? If they've been together for years, so much is happening. Have they lived together? Have they always celebrated Christmas? Is he putting a nix to Christmas all of a sudden because they have children? There's so much to that. If she would have put some long-term thought into what she wanted her children to experience within their childhood, she would have thought about Christmas. And hopefully they had conversations about what they expected for the holidays. And if she co-signed or signed off on no Christmas, and then you have regrets, well, that's a conversation. It's not, we're doing this and you just have to kind of sit back and allow me to do this and let me change my mind and break a promise I made to you. So things to learn from that little bullet point. Put thought into things. Don't just think short term of, oh, I'm so in love and I'm so happy and life is fantastic right now and it's only been 6 months, but I know it's going to be like this forever. It's like that way forever if you put work into it. You have to think about 5 years from now. If we have children, how do we want them raised? What morals do we want them to have? What values do we want them to have? What experiences do we want them to have? If your faith is important to you, do not get married to somebody in the hopes that they're just going to jump on the train of your faith. That's not how that works. You are accepting of that person and accepting of the boundaries that they have, maybe. To get married to somebody, to manipulate them, to jump on board with whatever your faith is a problem. And the demon on the back, you could say people say like being an alcoholic, there's a monkey on my back or whatever they say. I do believe that is a thing. I think that everybody has at least one demon on their back. At least one. We know it's average of 5 or 6. Let's have a little bit more grace. Let's have a little bit more understanding. That does not mean acceptance of poor behavior in your life. If you have a problem with somebody's actions, they are aware of that and they continue their repetitive behavior that you have a problem with, you have the right to say, look, I am not okay with this. I do not want this quality of life. I do not want to have this kind of turmoil in my life. I love you, and that is why I am saying I can't accept this anymore. At what point do we stop just being a bystander and become an enabler? Think about that. Next bullet point. Women don't want to admit they are perfected in wedlock, as are men, when they have obligations to family. Perfected in wedlock. What is being wed? What is being married? You are committing yourself to somebody for the rest of your life. I am somebody who is not willing to live in a repetitive cycle of misery. And there are going to be new situations in life, new stressors in life. There is going to be outside influences, variables, whatever the situation is. There's going to be something new in your life that is going to alter the way you think for a minute. Right? It's going to trip you up. You're going to get fucked up for a second. Your actions in an episode or in a super stressful period of time or in a bout of depression, there is going to be a recoil from your actions in that. Hopefully, you are somebody who doesn't want to be known as that person who is always depressed, always being vindictive, manipulative, woe is me. I believe that there is pain in all of that. I believe that somebody who is experiencing that, who constantly needs reassurance or a validation, and they don't feel like they matter without it, that is a very broken, emotionally hurt person. The way that you go about seeking things, though, there's a right way and there's a wrong way to do it. In marriage, you recognize that you are the holder to your happiness. The way that you are with your partner is going to be a reflection of, their behavior is going to be a reflection of how you treat them. People match energy, whether they intend to or not. People match energy. So if it's been 3 years since you guys have had any intimacy, well, when was the last time you tried? And I'm not saying like, hey, if you want to have sex, we can do it. Like, when was the last time you dolled yourself up? When was the last time you put something on that not just made you feel good, but you knew that your man was going to love seeing you in? And if he is somebody who isn't receiving of that or shuts it down or seems uninterested, have you asked him why? Perfected in wedlock. We are the holders of the happiness. Everybody has problematic behaviors. And like I said, they can come and go. There could be new ones. There are different things in life that could trigger something. If you don't want to live in a repetitive cycle of misery and turmoil and bullshit and maybe escapism in the video games or drinking or going out with friends, or maybe you're doing the opposite. You're isolating yourself and you're not doing any of your hobbies. You're laying in bed, just watching TV, eating nonstop. You change it. And by being perfected in wedlock, you have somebody, hopefully, you guys have the repertoire, I hope that's the right word, to give constructive criticism and be able to receive that in a way that is becoming of oneself. It's not always going to be pretty. There might be a little trip up. There might be like, damn, you might get a little bit emotional. And after that moment of emotion, still accept that with grace, take the constructive criticism, take it internally, and work on yourself. You want to be the best version of yourself for the person that you love. You want to be the person that they feel happy with, that they want to be best friends with, that they want to do everything with. You want to have the intimacy and the love and the, I know you've been gone for 3 hours, but I miss you. That is that perfected in wedlock, the grace, the compassion, the forgiveness, the love, the constructive criticism. On to the next bullet point. Some women enter a marriage thinking about what marriage and their man can do for them. When there is so little emphasis on giving or nurturing, nagging, nitpicking, and frustration soon takes over, chewing up and spitting out what could have been a wonderful marriage. Some women enter a marriage thinking about what marriage and their man can do for them. That's a lot to take in. Nowadays, a lot of women are focused on he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, he doesn't make this amount of money. They're looking for the next upgrade. Not saying all women are that way, but there is a vast majority, enough to the point that men are receding from dating and marriage. Not saying that men are super, oh, fuck me, I hate I have to do this. Disclaimer. If you're somebody who is emotionally vulnerable, maybe emotionally wounded, do know that we can have a conversation outside of women's wrongdoings about the things men do wrong and why marriage may not be happening. But that's not the conversation at this point. That can be had later on. A lot of women are looking for the next upgrade, the guy who looks better, the one who makes more money. I don't know if it's a term adopted by the masses, but I have a term that I use that's called a serial dater. There are women who are addicted to the high of the lust phase, where the first year or two where everything is super dope and everything is great, and there's little arguments here and there. But there is the chasing and the wanting and the yearning, the lust. And then over time, that is something that fades because that void is not being filled the same way because it's not new anymore. And then they start to see the flaws of a person that they were willing to overlook in the first year or two because they were getting a void filled. And then they move on to the next person, and then they move on to the next person, they move on to the next person. And I say that from experience because that's something that I did in my teen years. I was super insecure with myself. And once I got bored with a dude, I would move on to the next dude. As an adult, I am recognizing that that behavior is fucked. I'm laughing because I am ashamed and disgusted in myself that I did do that at one point. Talk about damaging the self-esteem of somebody. I literally used somebody for my own insecurities and value needing. And once they no longer filled that, I dumped them and moved on to somebody within a week or two because I wasn't worried about long-term. I was worried about the short-term gratification within myself. And I think a lot of women enter into marriage thinking that way, not just physically or emotionally, but financially. I also agree that there is not a lot of giving and nurturing happening nowadays. Even in public, I see women, and of course for the emotionally damaged, I also see men degrade their person in public. I can't remember where I was, but this old lady was just giving it to her husband in the middle of Publix. And I can't remember what the situation was. I just remember going, oh my Lord, like I hope if I ever speak to my husband the way that that woman was speaking to her man, he deserves better than that. There's public shaming happening. There is embarrassment, going and talking to his friends behind his back. There's having Snapchats, and I'm going to go out and say it. I think that if a dude tells me that his woman does OnlyFans, like by proxy, I'm embarrassed by that. It is what it is. Women can make their bag however way they want to. Just know that there is a perception to all of those things, and it wouldn't make me happy. I'm good. So how do we get back into the giving and the nurturing? You start looking at your husband, your boyfriend, the person that you're committing yourself to with love and compassion the way you did when you met them. If you've been with somebody for 10 years, a lot of shit happens in 10 years. A lot of disruptions, a lot of disagreements, a lot of I can't believe you did that, I can't believe you said that. Marriage is a commitment to love somebody through all of the mistakes that they make in their life. The bringing up the past and the constantly throwing things in their face and sitting on a couch on a Tuesday night looking at him and going, I can't believe you did this 3 years ago, I'm still hurt by it. And he has done everything to change that behavior and it has not happened since. Stop it. Stop doing that. Give the kind of grace that you would give a child to your spouse. And that's not saying treat him like a child. You love children differently than you love men. Especially if you gave birth to children. It is what it is. You need to have the same grace, the same compassion, the same patience that you have with a 2-3-year-old screaming. If you can handle that, You can handle the fact that your husband had a hard day, maybe cut himself while working, had a disagreement with his boss, 3 things set on fire at work that he had to put out, and then he gets home and you ask him a question and he snapped at you. Have some grace in that moment. Have some patience. If you can deal with a toddler absolutely losing their mind, throwing things, punching, screaming, kicking, you can handle the fact that your husband just slipped up a little bit. Especially if he reeled it back in afterwards and he was like, babe, I'm sorry. I had a really bad day. You let it go. You say, I'm sorry you had a bad day, babe. What can I do to make it better for you? It's kind of fucked up to think that it is a known thing. Women will 100% say that they will choose their children over anybody, especially the person that they're married to. There is a very obvious love, compassion, and grace given to children that's not given to husbands. And that makes me sad. Next bullet point, it's important to recognize the good in your life. To feel happy and fulfilled, you have to be caring, nurturing, and supporting of others. And I want to point out that that starts with yourself. You need to stop holding yourself to a standard that you don't hold others to. As a mom, I feel like I need to get everything done. As a wife, I feel like I need to get everything done in one day. I was thinking the other day, I was putting up the Christmas tree. Well, I didn't put up the Christmas tree. I was decorating the Christmas tree. And I was looking around, like I walked into my bedroom and there were our bedroom. I walked into my husband's and I's bedroom and there's clothes on the floor and there's dirty laundry and I haven't made the bed yet and I have an empty water bottle on my nightstand. And I walk into the living room and the living room looks really nice. I cleaned up the coffee table. I'm decorating the Christmas tree. I cleaned up the front walkway. The kitchen looks really good. It looks fantastic. Laundry room's kind of a mess. Kids' room's kind of a mess. Not that bad. I had a moment of either I can lose my mind and panic about how much I need to get done in the house because there's only 2 areas cleaned, or I can take a step back and recognize that I live my life. Our kids are happy. My husband and I have intimacy. Oh, I'm going to start crying. We have quality time. I would rather spend 8 hours with my husband riding dirt bikes versus being at home making sure the house is spotless and looks like a Home and Gardens magazine. I take baths. I play with my children. You look at other moms and you give moms grace. You tell them, yes, life is busy. Your kids are being fed. They are happy. Give yourself that same grace. Once you start having that understanding with yourself that you are not Superman, you're going to be less tense. You're going to feel less stressed. You're going to be less hateful because that hate for yourself oozes out into the world. It does. Once you have that compassion with yourself, you're going to start having it with others, and it's going to be a noticeable change. Take a moment, take a step back, look at your life, and really, do you have that much to gripe about? Yes, things happened in your past. Right now, in your present day, where are you sitting? What are you looking at? What's happening? What do you have going on tomorrow? You are not in a life or death situation in this moment. And I would bet 80 to 85% of you are pretty okay in life right now. And a lot of what you have going on is focusing on the past or focusing on the future. This is a direct quote. You either have, I added had, you either have a good marriage or you didn't. I added the have, not had, I apologize. So, direct quote, you either had a good marriage, I'm going to make me lose my mind. Direct quote, you either had a good marriage or you didn't. I had the idea that a good marriage somehow existed outside of my efforts. I heard that and I was like, bitch, what did you just say? You either had a good marriage or you didn't. I had the idea that a good marriage somehow existed outside of my efforts. That's a lot of things in life nowadays. There are a lot of people who are expecting handouts. There are people, younger people, I don't know what this generation is called anymore, the kids, the children, The kids on TikTok nowadays are upset that they went to college for 4 years and are not getting paid $120,000 a year. They're like, the experience was the degree. And I'm like, no. The degree just shows that you have knowledge about the shit. You don't have any on-hand experience. If you don't have hands-on experience in your marriage, and your marriage is just a piece of paper, how do you expect anything good out of that? Oh man, I have a lot of hands-on experience with my husband. And I want more of it. I could not imagine. You have to have hands-on experience in your marriage. You have to put in the time to work on your emotions and regulate yourself and check yourself and apologize when you're wrong. All of that is field experience. You need it. I made a note. I am only 4 minutes into this book. I don't know how long I've been recording for, but I was pretty blown away. I was like, wow, these are not bad points from only listening for 4 minutes. Next point, and this one speaks for itself. I'm really not going to say much about it. Treat him like the gift from God that he is. Next point. People tend to be nice, pleasant to be around when they are happy. When they are not happy, there is a sense of entitlement that they get to behave poorly, along with a sense of entitlement of saying, if you won't give me love or make me happy, I am entitled to go seek it elsewhere with someone else who is available. Quote, I deserve to be happy is something we mainly hear verbalized by women, which means feelings are greater than obligations. That makes me sad. That's a lot to think about. When you think about it, when people are happy, they are more enjoyable to be around because they're not focused on the negative things in life. There is not something that is eating away at the back of their brain. There's not a demon currently screaming in their ear. They're at peace and they're breathing and they're fine. When people are not happy, there is certainly a sense of entitlement. There's also an air of like, how dare you be happy around me? Like, you know I'm not happy. You know that I'm going through it. You know that my life is not good right now. How dare you laugh within my proximity? What a toxic mindset. There is a selfishness there. There is a, I would say on the odometer maybe, the green to red scale, fire, danger, but narcissism. I would say this is kind of tipping away from the green scale. If you feel like everybody in your life needs to be melancholy and depressed and like frail Victorian child around you, you're tipping away from the green zone of low narcissistic traits. If you're not happy, especially in your marriage, take a step back and go, oh shit. Are we not happy? Right? Because if you haven't asked that question, you should probably ask that question. Next point. Why do I have to be nice when something doesn't go my way? And something that came to my mind was the lavender plants that I wanted from Hobby Lobby. I love them. They came in little baskets and they were so cute. And they came in this little decorative, old looking skeletal basket thing. They were adorable. Fake lavender plants. And I was like, hey babe, can I have this? It was $8. This is one of the only things this man has ever told me no to. And he was like, where would you put it? And I was like, the kitchen. And he was like, no. There was already too much going on in the kitchen. It is overcluttered. And I said, okay. And that was it. Did I want the lavender plants? Yes. Was my tism screaming that we needed the lavender plants? Yes. Was my inner 4-year-old throwing a tantrum over the fact that I wasn't getting what I wanted? Yes. But me as an adult, I have control over all of that. And my husband's right. My kitchen already has too much going on in it. I have books. We have a coffee station. I have a cookbook on a pedestal. Like, I have this little round circular thing with my spoon collection on it with flowers. It's a whole thing. There's already too much going on. I have a kitchen stand mixer, an air fryer. I have a massive cutting board with my knives. He was right. He was right. Why throw a fit in a situation, especially when your husband's right? If the kitchen is too cluttered, what are you going to get rid of to keep that? And I said nothing. I am not willing to give up a damn thing in my kitchen right now to make room for those fake lavender plants. I don't like them that much. When you are told no in moments, in a deserving no, and you handle it with grace, you are more likely to be told yes in a frivolous situation. Example, my man just gave me a bunch of money to do my own home apothecary. We know that's not cheap. Is it a necessity for me to do that? No, it is a very frivolous thing to me for me to be spending money on right now. It's also my Christmas present. But I said, okay, when I was declined $8 of fake lavenders, and now I am getting my own home apothecary. My life is great, guys. Accepting no with grace is nice. It has a good outcome for you. Your husband's not frustrated with you. There's not a moment of tension for no reason. And I bet you look hot when you accept a no. Because you look pretty when you accept a yes. Right? And I bet men are scared to say no, because what kind of blow up is she going to have? If there's not going to be a blow up and he knows that you're going to take that no with grace, you might get something better later at nighttime, just saying. We all want to have that more intimacy in our life. The way to do that is to not have disruptions with no purpose. Now, if you don't have a car, and you need a car, and your husband's the only one driving, and he is monitoring gas when you go out, and he's telling you, no, you don't need a car, that's a problem. Of course that's a problem. That's abuse. That is a separate situation, and one that is deserving of its own time, probably with a more qualified person. Another direct quote from Lauren. If you act like a bitch, you are going to get treated like a bitch. That says it. I agree with her. If you are going to act like one, you will be treated like one, and you can't get upset when your husband acts accordingly to the way that you treat him. Oh, this might get released to YouTube, and if it gets released to YouTube and the women are in the comments going, yeah, well, what about men? Well, this is a woman's segment. So if we aren't here to better ourselves, prosper, and become the best versions that we can be, especially if we want to be a wife, this might not be the place for you. And that's okay. That is A-okay. Next bullet point. It is hard for women to imagine that their husbands are in pain because of them. Why is that? Why would it be hard for a wife to imagine that her husband is in pain because of her actions? I was going to say victim mentality. I agree, though. My husband just said that there are women that believe that they can do no wrong. All of their actions are justified because they justify them to themselves. This is one of my favorite things to say. Even Jeffrey Dahmer justified the shit that he did. Ted Bundy. Anybody who does anything egregious, like chomos, justify the things that they did, blaming it on childhood trauma. There is a lack of accountability. It could be a plethora of things. It could be never being told when you were a child, being coddled too much. It could be high narcissistic traits. Like I said, plethora of things. I think women also need, not all women, but I think even I do this. Take a step back and recognize when your husband hurts you, he feels like shit about it. If you married a good man who loves you and he does something to hurt you, take a step back. You're allowed to be hurt, but you also need to recognize that he might have not thought before he did that thing. He might have been so excited in that moment and super stoked about something that his filter was off. He said something out of the side of his neck and it hurt your feelings. I can guarantee that that man is far more upset about the fact that he just hurt the woman that he cherishes and is beating himself up. I can guarantee that he is beating himself up over the fact that he did that. And that is another moment to have grace. You can be hurt. You can verbalize that you were hurt in a way that is not combative, in a way is like, hey, this happens. My feelings are hurt. I want you to know that, and I would appreciate if that didn't happen again. And that's all that it can be. You don't have to throw it in his face 2 weeks from now. You don't have to bring it up every single day. You don't have to let it affect the quality of your life, especially if he is apologetic for it. Next bullet point. Because men do not emote emotion the way their wives do, some women believe men do not experience emotion, period. What a self-centered main character syndrome thought process. We did an interview with Warrior's Way Mindset. His name is Rick. Rick from Warrior's Way Mindset said that men cry through expressing anger. So if your man is always angry and he's always defensive and he's always on edge, that is his version of crying. I would ask him what's going on. And if you're the reason that's happening, he might lie to you and say nothing, it doesn't matter. Now you need to have a plan of attack because your man's shut you out, because maybe you react in a aggressive way, in a dismissive way, in a way that belittles him, in a way that makes him feel unsafe to come to you with his emotions. So now what are we going to do? You are going to devise a game plan. You are the expert of your life. You know your husband. You need to find a way to communicate over a period of time. This is not going to be a one-time conversation of, babe, talk to me. I promise I'm not going to hurt your feelings. I bet he's heard that before. And then there was a reaction of you being upset because he was truthful to you and then he had to apologize, or you exploded or were dismissive, or whatever the case was. Over a period of time, your actions and your words have to align with the fact that you are wanting to be a safe place for him to be emotional with. Next bullet point. We should not measure or interpret a man's heart, soul, intent, or feelings based on our own reactions. We as women cry and talk, and men do not ruminate on feelings. They try to find solutions. Men make lousy girlfriends, but amazing partners that complement and challenge the feminine energy, and in a way that the feminine energy cannot do to itself. Y'all want me to read that again? I'm going to read it again. We should not measure or interpret a man's heart, soul, intent, or feelings based on our own reactions. We know biologically men and women are not the same. We are built differently, and that includes our brains, the way that we are hardwired, the way that we feel things, the way that we process things, the way that we logic brain. We are different beings. To hit a man with, well, I wouldn't react that way, or I wouldn't have done that in that situation. Of course you wouldn't have. You're a woman. We as women cry and talk, and men do not ruminate on feelings. They try to find solutions. Men make lousy girlfriends, but amazing partners that complement and challenge the feminine energy, and it's in a way that the feminine energy cannot do to itself. Next point. So Lauren gave a little story. She said that there was a group of women who were taken to a shopping mall with 5 different levels. And the women were told on every level there's an option for a husband. And every level, the husband has a different quality. Once you leave the level to see what's on the next level, you cannot go back. So once you look at the man and go, I'm going to go up to the next level, see what's going on up there. You cannot go back down and go, well, I like that guy better. That's not how this works. So first level, ladies walk in. They see that this guy is good looking. That's what he has. The women are like, I'm going to move on up. I want more than just a pretty face. So they go to level 2. So dude's good looking and he's financially stable. And the lady's like, okay, that's a pretty good deal. I wonder what's on level 3. So they go up to level 3. So it's a gentleman who has same attributes as the men on level 1 and level 2. And he's good in bed. And the ladies are like, okay, this is getting good. What's on level 4? So they get up to level 4. So this man is all of that and a bag of chips. He's great with kids. At this point, the man's a whole package. He's good looking. He's financially stable. He's great in bed and he loves kids. He's great with kids. The women go up to level 5. And on level 5, they see a sign that says, this goes to show that men will never be good enough. She told that story and I was like, damn. I mean, of course I paraphrased it. I added in my own little things. She didn't write out and a bag of chips. But rewind that, listen to that again, because that is the mindset of a lot of women nowadays. And that could be arranged in any kind of way. It could be he's good looking, he knows how to cook, and he wants to have an RV for retirement. A lot of women are always their head on a swivel looking for the next upgrade. So reevaluate yourself, reevaluate the things that you do and the way that you treat your husband and recognize, hey, you have a pretty good fucking package because you chose him, right? And if he's not a good package, I would reevaluate life choices. And this is the last bullet point for today, though this will be definitely a part 2. A man could say to his woman, I'd rather you stay home with me or go on a date versus going to the club until 2 a.m. every weekend. And that could be labeled as controlling. I personally take that as the highest form of flattery. My husband wants to spend all of his time with me. And he gets a little bit jealous when I go out and have like a girls' date or something. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel wanted. It makes me feel like I am actually contributing something good to my husband. In turn, he wants to have me around. It's one of the greatest feelings ever. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you think. If you would like the part 2, let me know. And I will see you guys on the next episode of The Garden.